Warning: the views and opinions expressed in this program are our own and/or those of our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of our employers. Viewers' discretion is advised.
It will impact what we do as SBA lenders, to make that clear.
So, pop quiz, hotshot. The SBA was created for one reason and one reason only. Does anybody on this panel know what that reason was for?
If a billionaire takes away the small business program, essentially what he's doing is looking at you from the helicopter and pulling the ladder up while you are in the water, okay?
All right, the guy made an electric pickup truck that's kind of ugly. Strike one. Has that awkward Roman salute on stage. Not feeling that. Now you're putting my livelihood in jeopardy. I don't know, man. Three
Roman
strikes, you're
salute.
out anywhere else. I'm just being honest with you. We're rolling deep to Big Al's family vacation. I can't believe it. It's going to be awesome. I'm bringing my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my sister, and my sister's boyfriend, who has a ponytail.
Now, Al, does he have a ponytail or does he have a ponytail like Gio?
I guess you're going to have to wait till you get off the airplane to find out, Ryan.
Oh, man. Are you coming in on the 4th?
Yeah, I'm going to come in the same times as you.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about, dude. So it's, I'm coming, obviously, my wife and my 2 little ones, but I'm also bringing my 2 adult kids, too. So they're going to be coming down. Bringing the whole family, baby.
Look out, Cancun!
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your co-host Emily, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts Alan Peterson, Chris Hackney, Sterling Birdsong, and Ryan Kroge. At the beginning of each episode, we're always going to remind you to like and subscribe, and go ahead and send your topics and suggestions over to BDO Show at artofsba.com. And don't forget to check out our whole family of shows, SBA Today, which airs live every single week on LinkedIn, as well as our flagship program, the Art of SBA Lending Podcast. Okay, BDOs, it's story time. And no, I am not talking about the time Sterling tried to finance a zoo. You'll have to go back to episode 3 for that. I'm talking about the story that your borrower has in their head, and they may need that extra boost to finally get it onto paper. Rapid Business Plans is a known and trusted partner that can help them do just that. Whether your borrowers are working towards acquiring a business, starting one up, or expanding and making moves, within just a few short days, Rapid Business Plans will deliver powerful, fast SBA and USDA-ready business plans with projections and assumptions. If they need an export business plan for an ITL loan or a feasibility study, they have you covered there too. We know this process is not a walk in the park, or should I say zoo. Let the Rapid Business Plans team take some of the wild out of the process so that your borrower's vision and passions can come to life. For more information or to get acquainted, email Bethany McClellan at bethany@rapidbusinessplans.com or click the link in the show notes. Today's episode is going to be a good one. I just know it. Okay. It's going to be a controversial one, I think, as well, but it'll be good. So we're going to talk about the effects of DOGE on the SBA lending, world. Did I say that wrong?
No, I don't know how to pronounce
It's
it.
no right or wrong way. I mean,
funny.
It's kind of something that they just made up. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah,
like real.
It is. He
It's
has been
the
getting
Department of
so
Government
much
efficiency, to be precise.
so many
is what we're
legs
talking
off
about.
of this word Doge. He made a coin called Doge, and now he found out a way to bring it into politics too.
So why don't we kick the episode off by, Chris, why don't you lead us? Why don't you explain to everyone what DOGE stands for? And then do you want to talk about their core mission, what their core mission is for the USA and why it impacts the SBA?
Hell no, but we'll do it. DOGE, Department of Governmental, is it governmental or government efficiency?
Department of Government Efficiency.
Department of Government Efficiency. So essentially it's a department headed by Elon Musk where it's non-governmental folk that are coming into government and essentially attempting to reduce the national deficit and cleaning up expenses, right? So think of it as an interim CFO coming into a business, cleaning that business up. Hey, we're good now. The controversy is that one, Mr. Musk and his team is gaining access to, your personal financial information. Like, are there checks and balances? Him being an owner of several businesses that receive government contracts too. There's some conflicts there. So that's part of the controversy. The other, I guess, controversial things are the potential loss of jobs for government employees. As with any company, any business, any operation, if you identify employees who probably, you could use some technology or other efficiencies to do that role, you tend to make staffing decisions, which are tough. And I think they're taking that approach too. But the challenge with government is there's a lot of government employees and they're all concentrated in that DC, Maryland area for the most part. Then there's some remote workers as well too. But when you lay off that many employees at one time, there's a trickle down effect. So think of the businesses that they visit, the diners, the dry cleaners that they go to, and all of a sudden you have 5,000, 10,000 people without jobs in those markets too. That impacts small businesses, which we lend to, particularly if you're a lender in that market. So that's kind of DOGE in a whole, how it impacts us as SBA lenders. They are looking into the SBA, and I've got some information that's probably too privileged to share that I just learned of, but it will impact what we do as SBA lenders, to make that clear. So think about the SOP, think about some of the fee waivers on smaller loans, think about some of the adjacent agencies within the SBA. So the Office of International Trade, for example, do some of these agencies disappear? Are they no longer needed? And does that impact, okay, can you still do a 90% international trade loan if there's no Office of International Trade? Not saying it's going to happen, but those are the things that DOGE can influence and impact what we do as well. So, and I think the challenge for the SBA is they have made their own loans, which are EIDL and PPP. Well, we made PPP, but EIDL loans, and those just did not perform. A lot of fraud, a lot of defaults, a lot of charge-offs. Those are being conflated with what we do as 7A lenders in the private sector. We make good loans for the most part, all of us, right? There's some bad actors out there. I'm not going to say it's 100% across the board, but when you combine the two, it's an amalgamation of, okay, well, all SBA loans are bad loans, or it's the shady business administration, as he's dubbed it.
He shared on the internet that 8% repayment rate, right? And that's the thing that really kind of turned my gears. It's kind of like, all right, the guy made an electric pickup truck that's kind of ugly. Strike one. Has that awkward Roman salute on stage. Not feeling that. Now you're putting my livelihood in jeopardy. I don't know, man. Three
Roman
strikes, you're
salute.
out anywhere else. I'm just being honest with you. That's
No,
a little,
I mean,
a little challenging.
Here's the thing, guys, is like the shady business administration thing, the 8% thing that he's talking about on Twitter. I think he's making it pretty clear where he sits on what side of the fence. And so I do think it is genuinely concerning as somebody who is an SBA lender, because as Chris said, the vast majority of the loans that we make are good loans. And, whether or not you look at the EIDL loan program and the PPP loan program, and, let's admit that there probably were some issues with the program, but let's also cut the government some slack for once and say that they built a program essentially in 2 weeks to try and save the economy when COVID hit. It's very difficult to build a plane on the runway, and they did their best in a very bad situation. And they ultimately did help a lot of people. Did some people also probably get some money that they shouldn't have gotten? Yes. Did people get money and use it in inappropriate ways? Probably. But as a whole, the SBA program is the lifeblood of small business in America, especially people who are looking to exit from their small business. And make no mistake about it, if a billionaire takes away the small business program, essentially what he's doing is looking at you from the helicopter and pulling the ladder up while you are in the water. Okay. This is somebody who's already made all of their money. They don't care about whether or not me or you continue to make our livelihood. And also looking at you, small business owner, they do not care about you either if they're taking away this program. Guess what? You are still treading water if you are a small business, if you're a young entrepreneur. And somebody who lives essentially in an ivory tower, who is essentially invincible and untouchable financially, should not be making decisions about what impacts you as a small business owner. That's my 2 cents.
This has happened before under Ronald Reagan. There were some potential, ideas about, do you shutter the SBA? Do you combine it with another agency? So don't think that we have permanence in SBA lending. It has been on the chopping block before, and it can be again.
So pop quiz, hotshot. The SBA was created for one reason and one reason only. Does anybody on this panel know what that reason was for?
I don't need to prove myself to you. I know it. I know it. Let's hear from the other guys.
Seriously,
let's hear from the only person who's old enough to remember when it was invented.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was invented. Well, it was put together in the 50s, but it was the one purpose of it was job creation and job retention. That was the purpose. And by creating that Small Business Administration, they were able to utilize this by giving banks more access, by giving business owners more access to capital through banks by a government guaranteed program.
Now that's the spirit of the program, baby.
That is
Spirit
the
of the
spirit of the
program.
program. Job creation and job retention. All right. And this is what I was afraid of. I said this just on the last week's podcast episode, is that I was afraid that with the loosening of a lot of these rules, a lot of these regulations that were causing a lot of lenders and a lot of borrowers to misuse the SBA program by finding these loopholes and finding ways to skirt the program with no money down or not really having operators on that are bootstrapped in the business on a daily basis was going to cause some issues. And it's a perfect timing for this DOGE, which I think is don't offer any glizzies to Elon. Go figure whatever that means. But he's going to come in and he's going to take a look at all these regulations. He's going to take a look at all these new changes in the SOP, and it's going to just give him an excuse or give whomever the excuse that he hires to go in there to start cutting it back and get another knee-jerk reaction to pull the program back to post 2010 to where everything was really tightly regulated. You had to count every penny for equity over the last 3 to 4 months. You had to really look at money being put down. You had to look at the operations. You had to ensure that the business owner was in there post-closing operating the business. I mean, there were so many tight regulations because when the recession hit, so many businesses lost their shirts and it caused the SBA to take some big losses. Now, the SBA is a very profitable program. The Small Business Administration, as a government agency, makes money. It's a money generator. It's one of the only government programs that can be self-sufficient based off of the guarantee fees, the servicing fees, and the repayments of the program for their benefit, for the small business benefit. I cannot see any Department of Oversight, any audit completely nixing the Small Business Administration. I just don't see that whatsoever. But what I can see is them pulling back the reins on it quite a bit, which will hurt small businesses because those who took advantage of the program, as Hackney said, during PPP, during EIDL, during the current administration with the loosening of the regulations and the loosening of the rules, is going to cause a knee-jerk reaction to pull it back and make it even tighter, which obviously is going to make it even more tighter and harder for businesses to obtain capital, even with a government guarantee.
Well, I would love to think that they actually are going to take the time to review everything and actually go through line by line in the SOP. But what I've seen thus far that's been put out there in the public, they haven't done much reviewing, and they're making some pretty sweeping statements. And they're doing that obviously to shift public opinion because they obviously know that by shifting public opinion, it's going to make it easier in terms of pushback if they do make slashes and cuts to the program. Listen, if they want to actually provide some real evidence as to some rules and regulations that they think are harming the taxpayer, I would certainly be all ears to that because, I think everybody on this call is a pretty hefty taxpayer. And so I think that we are using our money appropriately. However, what I've seen thus far does not give me a huge sense of confidence.
I'm all about slashing pork barrel spending. That was a buzzword that I kind of forget what it really means, but I'm against it. First of all, I want to be on the record here. Alan Peterson is against pork barrel spending. What I'm thinking though is because the program is self-sufficient with the government guarantee and we're not relying upon, tax monies. Forgive me if I'm mistaken. That's my understanding of it. Is it the possibility that they'll look at it as the 7A program specifically as an asset, as something positive where perhaps they'll say, listen, this is okay. This is safe. You know what I mean? The fact that it's running on its own, we're not relying on tax dollars, I think is a significant benefit. And to be honest, they might want to let it keep going the way it is. I haven't seen, and forgive me if you guys have seen something I haven't, please let me know. But I haven't seen anything that says that they're targeting the 7A program. What I've seen is a bunch of fake news and garbage on Twitter, but that's social media.
Yeah, I would be afraid if they were to start cutting costs at the Small Business Administration. Now, there's a difference between cutting costs and making it more efficient. I would love for them to make it more efficient. I really would, because unfortunately, like most government-run agencies, it's just not that efficient. But to just go in and start cutting costs is not the right way to make a department efficient, because customers are already having issues getting a hold of people at the SBA to try to make their PPP payments, to try to get subordinations for EIDL.
4363.
And yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Daniel Park.
There's a litany of issues that they already have right now from a customer service department. But if they can make that more efficient and make it better, I think the SBA can become a smoother organization and continue, as Al said, to keep that 7A program churning like it normally does, because it is what's keeping money on Main Street.
Well, here's the thing I would point out, and why the 7A program would be in the spotlight is there's been a shift to small balance lending, which don't collect the guarantee fees, right? Which is why the program generally is zero subsidy, because as we all know, that the listeners, there's a guarantee fee financed in. Well, with the fee waivers that we've had, I think for the last 2 years, maybe 3, there's been an increase to small balance lending. So I was just pulling up the data that's public information. The total repurchases went from 700 million in 2022 to 1 billion in 2023 to 1.6 billion in 2024. That means they've paid out 1.6 billion in repurchasing the guaranteed portions of the loans. There's been an increase in small dollar lending that does not collect guarantee fees. So, from what I've heard, the zero subsidy thing is not necessarily, I don't know the exact dollar amount, but it's getting close to where it might not be in that zero subsidy category that we like to wave our flag on. And that's because of the shift to small lending.
Everybody and their brother's got a score and go program now.
Yeah.
And I like that we're talking
Right.
about politics. Chris, with the pen, you're giving me those Bob Dole vibes you used to. Love
Yeah.
that. It's,
I'm more of a
it's
Ross
something-
Perot guy, but
you've always been an independent, that's for sure. Yeah, but I mean, I'm telling you, like the score and go stuff is disgusting to me. I think it's really stupid
Right.
that you're going to do a deal based on a personal FICO and a gross loan amount, right? You're going to do
right,
a gross revenue and a credit score is going to give you money.
right.
But does that make sense? Like those deals go bad and we're surprised?
Yeah, and you've got to put more parameters around it. Like we started with that at Bayfirst, honestly, and it's like, well, that's not a good way to go about lending money, duh. And so
Right.
you should be adding guardrails beyond that. And eventually you have so many guardrails that you'd be better off just doing debt service coverage.
You're underwriting a deal
Right.
eventually.
Yeah,
right?
it's like, well, why don't we just do
Yeah,
cash
right.
flow? And now we're doing
Yeah.
bank statement analysis. Like, go ahead, Ryan.
So I'm going to say something that those who have been in it as long as I have, it's going to be very unpopular.
Hey guys, we have a special announcement for anybody involved in M&A transactions. Our partner, Peak Business Valuation, have put together a resource just for BDO Show listeners, and they're giving it away for free. It lists out the rule of thumb formulas, or as Kroge would like to say, the down and dirty, for some of the most common industries that SBA lenders finance. I promise you it's going to come in handy. Kroge's literally still using the one he got from Nagel in 2002. By the way, if you're not thinking about evaluation at the pre-screen phase, you are missing the boat. A lot of BDOs tend to focus on the debt service coverage, and they're missing the valuation completely. That's a rookie move, and it will become a problem. As a consultative BDO, you should have a sense of whether the business is going to value out, and Peak's handy-dandy rule of thumb is here to help. Go to peakbizval.com/BDO show to get yours today.
So I'm going to bring up Bank of America. Bank of America was the leader, the top dog for score and go. They were the top SBA lender with a bullet by a long shot for years. And I mean years, up until about 2010 when they got audited. The SBA came in and just ripped apart their small score and go program because of exactly what you guys are talking about. All right. It's just credit score based. There's no analysis. There's no underwriting. They were having high defaults on it. And they're like, you got to get this under control or get rid of it. Now, since 2010, where has Bank of America been on SBA lending? Where? They don't even rank in the top, 40? Anything. They're nowhere to be seen. All right. So it completely cut their program. And then another larger bank started slowly introducing the score and go. They started treating it a little bit differently, though. They started treating it like a credit card portfolio. They started treating it as a relationship bank based type lending, where if you come in with a Pulse articles of incorporation and open up a business checking account, you automatically get approved for $25,000 express line. And now this bank is number one with the bullet for number of loans made. All right. Of course, they won't say by volume. They'll only say it by application. But if you take all those away, they're not even in the top 30 for 7A production. And they are getting away with murder. And they're treating this entire portfolio like a credit card. They're letting defaults go. To me, it's disgusting. I remember when it first came out and they had the idea of going with this, and I didn't think it was going to amount to anything. And now it's created a juggernaut that every other financial institution is trying to mimic and trying to duplicate. And it's just going to be a significant black mark on this program until the program itself stops, being afraid of taking on Goliath and just go to their face and tell them to cut it out. Tell them to be a bank, do responsible lending, be a good fiduciary of your institution's depositors, and quit with all this garbage. And until the SBA gets the steel cojones to do that, it's going to be a black mark on the program for a long time.
But they enable it, though. The SBA enables it on the small balance stuff.
They do.
You could price it way higher. The secondary market treats it, and that's why it's crack cocaine. When this was rocking and rolling, every bank wanted to get into it. Not every. I'm exaggerating. The fact is, there was a ton of folks that wanted to get involved in small balance lending. I know that firsthand, as I was approached by quite a few folks that wanted to know, how are you doing it? How does it work? How do we start doing it? How can we do this and sell a bunch of these loans and get them done in 3 weeks, charge prime plus 6 or whatever the max is. And the secondary market responded well because they're paying top dollar on those premiums. The SBA is enabling the behavior, and that's a correction that I believe needs to be addressed. And I would almost pivot there. It's like, Sterling, like what changes do you think that they should make? Because like you said, I agree with you that I'm hopeful that they'll really take a consideration about the big picture, and kind of do what's right to hopefully enhance and protect the program rather than just slash it. But I mean, what are some action items that you might see?
So I would say, first of all, I would bring back the guarantee fee on small loans. I don't see any reason why a loan up to $1 million should have no guarantee fee. I think that every dollar that's lent through the SBA program should have a guarantee fee approach attached to it. Personally, even though the small 150s and below, it can certainly be like it was before, where it starts to ratchet up as you get into the higher dollar amounts. I think that's a fair way to do it with that sliding scale. But I definitely think that there needs to be something that pays into the coffer of the SBA, because ultimately we do want to keep this a zero subsidy program. That is important, I think, to all of us. Now, some other changes that I would certainly make. I think that the 4363 issue thing needs to be straightened out. That whole thing has become a nightmare in itself, and it is 100% penalizing good people, good customers, good borrowers who had
Sterling,
no
can you get
idea
into that a little
what
bit?
they were doing.
I'm sorry. Can you outline
the
that?
4363 thing, this is something that's starting to pop up, and it has to do with people who got EIDL loans and PPP loans, and essentially at somewhere along the line they did something incorrect. They stubbed their toe. Maybe they missed one payment, or maybe they did not get forgiveness when they should have gotten forgiveness. Maybe there's some belief that they misappropriated some funds somewhere along the line. But essentially, the SBA is putting them on a naughty list, and they're saying, hey, you are forever barred from getting an SBA loan until essentially you come and talk to us and you give us a whole litany of items. And I mean, the litany of items that these people want, it's a lot for somebody. I actually just got like the checklist of all the stuff that they are asking for from a customer now. And I mean, this is like 20 different bullet points of items that they're requesting from this person dating back to 2020. I mean, 1040 tax returns and all types of different stuff, bank statements, you name it. So this is legitimately holding up people from getting deals closed, because most people don't even know that they've actually done something incorrect until they go to get another SBA loan. It's not like they're being proactively reached out to by the SBA and saying, hey, we think you may have done something incorrect here a couple of years ago. Why don't you go ahead and address this? No, they're waiting until they're essentially getting their authorization pulled which means that you're on the back half of your process with an SBA lender.
You're approved. You've got a commitment letter. You've got everything is looking good. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Keep going.
Money is out the door. It's
right.
going
hard money.
And then you're finding out that you have a 4363 issue, and who knows how long it's going to actually take you to get it cleared. Who knows if they actually will get it cleared. I'd be curious to know from you guys, have you had luck getting 4363 issues cleared thus far?
No. I've had one going on for about 6 months now, and just they just walked away.
Think about it, they got 6
they walked away from it. They walked away from the deal. And
and
I don't.
And this is 6 months. So that deal's
I had
gone.
a deal that got lost to it too. Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And the real tragedy of it isn't even that it just took 6 months. The real tragedy is that as of now, that person's barred from the program forever, and most likely there's somebody who really didn't do anything wrong. Okay. I really haven't seen one of these issues yet where something looked egregious to me. Now, of course, that's anecdotal. I don't get to see every 4363 issue that's out there. And I'm sure there are some bad actors. There's always bad players out there. As I mentioned before, there were people who probably got money through EIDL and through PPP who should not have gotten money, who 100% misappropriated the funds and went and bought a Ferrari. But that is not the majority of people. Okay, that's the needle in the haystack. It is not. It's the exception to the rule. It truly is. Most people who got lending back then were people who were really legitimately trying to save their business. And so it's unfortunate that they stubbed their toe or tripped over something at some point during that process, and now they may never be able to get SBA financing again. So that is certainly something that I would say needs to be addressed. Number 2. Number 3, I think that what needs to be addressed is the actual size of the SBA program in terms of the dollar amount that we're able to lend. So the maximum amount you can lend right now through the 7A program is $5 million. I think that needs to be increased to $10 million. Just to keep up with where inflation's gone over the last 10 years, I think it's appropriate for it to be increased. I mean, even 7.5 would be nice, but really, I think 10 would be appropriate. Because that's just the way that the dollar has trended during that time, and especially since COVID, with the spike in inflation that we had. Many of these quote unquote small businesses that would have cost $5 million in 2015, a lot of them now cost 9 or 10, and it's the same business. It's just times have certainly changed, and there's still a lack of a true player in that space from that 5 to 10 million. Gross value of a business, the enterprise value of a business. There's no one who's really playing in that space before you get into the private equity world. So I think that there still needs to be a solution out there for what I still consider to be small businesses. So those are 3 that immediately come to mind for me.
Look at the amount of banks right now that are doing pari passu, right? And for those of you who don't know what that is, you take the SBA max up to $5 million, and then you do a conventional loan to whatever desired amount you want, whether it's 6, 7, or 8 million. So you've got a 5 million SBA, a 3 million conventional, but pari passu, which is French for at the same time, they share their lien position, right? So banks are doing those loans. They're already going above and beyond the 5 million. And plus the SBA also has a rule that per transaction, you're maxed at 5 million, but if it's in a different industry, NAICS code, you can your aggregate can reset. I kind of like that, but I'm with you, Sterling. They got to increase this max, because I remember when they increased it from 2 million to 5. You would have thought that the floodgates. You would have thought that the whole world was changing. Everyone I knew who was doing SBA was like $5 million. There's no way we're going to be doing $5 million loans. There is not a chance that my committee will approve a $5 million SBA loan. Now, especially if you're living out on the West Coast, like California or in Texas or Arizona, 5 million is like your average. That's the norm, because that's how much businesses cost out there. That's how much it is if you buy a business and the real estate. You're easily going to be bumping up against that $5 million max. So having it increased, Sterling, I'm with you. I'm big on that. I also like bringing back the guarantee on all those smaller loans, because that'll pump the brakes on some of these score and go shops that are just trying to earn a buck. Because I don't think the consumer is going to want to take right now. It's easy for them to take free money because, like I said, some of the big banks are treating it like a credit card. But once you throw a couple $1,000s on a guarantee fee that they got to pay, they might change their mind on that. So I'm with you on that.
The loans are still guaranteed, so why is there no fee? I just want to take a quick moment. Obviously, it's no secret that I'm a big credit guy, right? So I just want to thank you guys. I agree with everything here. A couple quick fact checks. Pari passu is a Latin phrase. It's not French, and it actually means on equal footing. The other item that we forgot, Sterling in point 2, talking about
I'm sorry, I was thinking
codes.
of menage a trois.
On the error codes, when we talked about people that got hurt, you forgot to mention Daniel Park's, coincidentally, pari passu loan that he just dealt with that. Shout out to Daniel Park, the OG on the West Coast, doing his thing. Holler at your boy.
We love Daniel Park.
I need to brush up on my Latin.
You got like 2 master's degrees. You know I'm just teasing you. But anyway, the other thing that I'm hearing, I think we all agree with to a point, is the credit guy in me is excited, right? Because it sounds like we're saying on even the smaller stuff, a little more prudent lending. Let's make sure that we don't have so much fun at this party that we destroy something that we all love. That's imperative for small businesses in America. That's why you never wrestle with a pig, because you're going to end up in the mud and the pig's going to like it. That's what I always say, at least.
I would say a couple of things to add. So one, I actually on Monday I was just checking my email. I got an email from a congressperson in their office to actually, this guy. Yeah, we're close, but to comment on an increase to SBA funding, disaster, and they're going to lump in 7A with that. So the bill's already drafted. They're getting comments from large SBA lenders around the nation. Of course, you need that support when you submit a bill. So that is in the works, and it has been. Probably for a year, I've been having conversations with the SBA and politicians about that. And this is the first time I've actually seen a draft bill and asked to comment on it. I'm not writing it; our marketing team is writing it because whatever. But so that's in the works. On the guarantee fees, I was just doing the quick math. There's about, I think it's under 500,000 or sub 500,000. It's $9 billion that was funded in the fiscal year 2024. If you added in a 2% guarantee fee and assume like an 80% guarantee between the blend of those 75 and 85, that would be like $150 million in additional funding to the program that they're not collecting right now. So I only did it up to $500,000, right? You can go up to $1 million and kind of break that out for yourself. But
that would cover a significant amount of loss.
No comment.
Let that breathe.
Listen, they should go. They should 100%.
Wow, we were doing
wow. Oh, my mic was on. I didn't know my mic was on. I thought I turned it off.
We were walking on the tightrope, Brian. We were walking on the tightrope here. We thought we were doing great.
No. Oh, no.
It's 2025. We're supposed to be abrasive. We're supposed to be controversial, Al. What happened to controversial Al? Let's go, baby.
Right.
Come on.
You're right. Oh, my God. That's awesome.
Podcast of the year. Let's go.
Guys got kazongas on him. Gosh,
he's the king. Kazongas.
But it's a great point, Chris, is that, listen, it wasn't that long ago that there was a guarantee fee on these smaller balance loans. And I didn't hear anybody complaining.
It's not a deterrent to business. Just to be clear, for a small balance lender we've been doing it for a long time, back 2017. SBA borrowers it's not a deterrent for business because their other option is an MCA at 30% or factoring, right? So, I mean, a 2% guarantee fee on a $100,000 loan ain't so bad.
All right, here's a crazy one I'm going to throw out at you guys, and I'm not saying that I'm in support of this. I'm just trying to gauge the room here. But if we're talking about efficiency and potentially, what efficiency means is that you're eliminating people potentially, right? What if the SBA said, hey, we are no longer going to have the GP process at all, and everything that's done now must be done internally as a PLP lender, and so essentially everything's on you. Do not check in with us. Do not send anything, GP. This process no longer exists. Either you're a PLP lender or you are not an SBA lender at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Nah, I don't.
How
because
are you
if you're new to the program,
I don't like that either.
You got to do your. What is it? Is it like you got to do 5 bad scored loans? Like, you get your PLP and you're off to the races.
I think it's
well, obviously they'd have to change that, right? So you'd have to apply probably to the SBA for your PLP license. They'd have to come up with their own parameters for whether or not they feel like you are a prudent lender or a reputable lending institution, and then they basically say, have at it. you're now a PLP lender, but we're actually going to shift this manpower towards potentially fighting you on the back end when you ask for your guarantee, because now we're just going to make sure you did it the right way in the first place.
But I think that's a good reason to have GP, because there are those situations where you have a transaction that you know it's a good transaction, you know should be doing it, but it's just following within that gray area of the SOP, right? Where it could be interpreted one way, it could be interpreted the other. And we all know we've emailed 7-8 questions and we get a mixed response depending on who
we get some mixed reviews over there. Yeah.
So mixed
You
reviews.
guys
So
got
you
mixed
got to
reviews.
have that opportunity to send a GP to protect your guarantee, so that when it does go bad, not when it goes bad, if it goes bad, you know, the SBA can't fight you on it because they approved it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to be able to protect your guarantee one way or another. Can't put it all on the banks.
You guys kept talking about efficiencies, and I was curious, like what we know so far with DOGE and like what they're doing or the idea of what they're supposed to be doing. Do you guys think that there are efficiencies that they can find within the SBA? And if so, I was just curious if you had some examples.
No one is going to claim that the government is too efficient. Okay, I don't think anyone's ever said that the government is overly efficient. Half the stuff the government does is outsourced to somebody else anyways. They don't even do it themselves. They just stroke the check. So I do think that the idea of DOGE is a good thing. I do think that government should be looked at. It should be audited. It should be examined. And perhaps maybe it even should be done by somebody who is not from inside the government. You know, a true third-party reflection. Like we as a bank, we have audits, right? And when we have audits, we don't have our credit team audit the credit team. We have somebody who's a third party come in from a CPA firm or whoever, and they say, hey, you know, we're going to audit these files and you need to provide these. And they really poke holes in things. And so I do think that there's certainly a lot of bloat in the government. There's certainly some room to trim the fat. But I do think that there's a way to go about it. I think you need to be surgical. This needs to be done with the scalpel, not with a hacksaw. So we need to be a little bit mindful of exactly the way that they go about doing it, in my opinion. And so thus far, what I've seen, it seems a little bit more like bully tactics at time is the best way that I can put that. And I understand that maybe sometimes it feels like a bull in the china shop is the best way to get things done. But I do hope that there's a eyesight towards the potential repercussions and the ripple effects that could come from some of these changes that maybe are just unforeseen 5, 10, 15 years in the future. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, we definitely need to have somebody come in and cut the fat. We definitely need, the government spends way too much of our taxpayer money, and it needs to be cut back. It needs to be more efficient. But as much as I like him, you can't have a character like Elon Musk out there tweeting crazy stuff. You know, that just incites the general public. That just gets people all up in arms. It gets the media in a frenzy. And I know he does it for reactions. You know, he does it for reactions. He does it for clicks, for shares, for whatever they do on Twitter or X or whatever the heck it's called now. I'm never on there. But you got to have somebody that's a little bit more professional over it to be a sounding board, to actually give the department credence, and not somebody who's legitimately a cartoon character.
Well, the issue is that he has no issue like knowingly lying, right? And he'll do
Right.
it to
And he said it. He said
Yeah,
he
he said
lies.
it. Yes, she's like, oh, I'm not always going to be right.
Yeah.
Well, don't say outlandish things.
Yeah, and
Right.
he knows he's not right.
Doesn't
when he
give
says it, but he'll
credibility.
tweet it to 217 million followers on
Right.
Twitter, and then he'll deal with the repercussions afterwards, if there are repercussions. Let's admit it, there's no repercussions for a person who's worth $400 billion.
Yeah,
Not in this
especially
society.
on his own Don't forget, he owns the platform. You could always take your
Yeah.
belt off in your own house.
Yeah.
At least my
It's
dad
just-
did.
But it just kind of, it kind of saddens me because we're coming on a time where, us as SBA lenders, we were like cool, like coming off PPP and the search community.
Wait,
and-
we're cool. We still are cool, man.
Well, I mean, when you say
We're
shady
still
business
hip.
administration now, it's like, oh, you're an SBA lender. I saw Elon tweet that. We were riding a nice wave there too. So I hope that doesn't change.
Oh, I thought he meant like Slim Shady. I thought it was a good thing.
Possibly.
covered this.
There's some
They
merch.
covered this.
There's some merch coming out.
They
Yeah.
had a good experience on this on Tuesday. I don't know if you guys caught SBA today, but they kind of dove into this.
I don't
too,
have cable.
So, yeah, anybody listening, make sure to check that out as well. They covered that and got more into kind of the nuances of it. I know for one thing, when I saw the Shady Business Administration tweet that said they've only have an 8%, repayment rate total, that screenshot made its way into many a group text that I'm party to, right? So
Many group text. Well,
not just from my other, lender friends, but other folks like, brokers.
Sergio
Marzatelli.
Sergio
Marzatelli.
He hit me up about it.
Well, I mean, that stat could have just been too subjective. Maybe instead of putting that 8% repayment into the number one abs lender, maybe take it across the whole entire platform, and it'll probably be more closer to 96%, 97%.
You know where I get my information, guys, when it comes to SBA? Lumos. By the way, are you sick of getting your concentrated data on the government guaranteed lending program from your brother-in-law or perhaps a technocrat? I go to Lumos. Make sure that you reach out to Brett Keynes at lumos.com.
Did you make that up on the fly?
That was dope.
I'm also on a 72-hour fast.
Where do you come up with this stuff, Al? I swear I think Al thinks of this stuff in the shower, but it just sounds like it just rolls off his tongue. At
Technocrat off the dome is pretty impressive.
Here we go. We were doing so well. Anyway, we were doing so well. That was a great episode. I think we finally got a little bit back.
Now we're back. Yeah,
we're
that
so
liquidity
back.
episode, I was concerned. We're getting dropped.
Yeah, it was getting a little bit too dry.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, great episode. Love weighing in on hot topics, current events. It's always great. Everybody, thank you for being with us again on the BDO Show. If you have any other topics you want to hear or suggestions, send those to TheBDOShow@artofsba.com, and we will see you next time.